Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Athletic School podcast. Today, I bring again another guest, friend of mine, Leon. We played in college together for maybe 2 years. I don't even know if it was more than 2 years, but Leon has an interesting story. He's from Germany. He went to the U.S. We met in the U.S. and then now he's living in Japan. He's been posting a lot about his life there and the things that he's up to. So I kind of want to dive deep into his mindset. Leon, thanks for joining me. Thanks for taking the time. I know it's late for you, so
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. And yeah, no problem. Not too late, but for you, I would have accepted the call at any time. No worries.
I appreciate that. Um, okay, so to begin with, I want to go back to Lords when we were playing at Lords. Um, for us that didn't speak German, you were a player that almost like a true German, where you were like playing hard. You were not there joking around. Like you didn't care about anything besides just winning. Um, and of course, that can be a total misconception from people that were on the outside and maybe couldn't communicate with you in German. Um, do you think that's true? Were you that person back then?
I think I think what's particularly right about that sort of statement is that the true German sort of who kind of takes everything really serious. I think that for sure was definitely, especially at that time, coming out of like the junior programs of like my German academy teams. I think that definitely was my thing where I wanted to take every practice serious and I wanted to be like on time, wanted to prepare well. I think, yeah, that's I think about that you're particularly like right, and I don't think I was like mean or like a bad player. I think you know that too. Like I was never like super aggressive, but I think
Mhm.
I took the sessions really seriously, and I think that that also helps in like in competitive sports to be sort of competitive and serious about the sessions. I think that that would, yeah, that helps.
That's fair. I agree. I agree with you. And I think especially on our team, we didn't have that a lot, and because when that those things happen, people would see as a bad thing and not as a like, look, we're on the same team, we're trying to win. People just saw like he's a piece of shit. Let me punch him in the face. You know what I mean? Like, not talking about you, but like, if you did anything that was out of the normality, then people were just go crazy and think you are an asshole because you did something different.
Right, yeah.
Um, with that being said, do you do you still carry your life that same way where you're trying to be on time for everything? I mean, probably in Japan, I'm assuming uh, those things are very similar. I think Japanese people are very polite, they're always on time. um, but now you're not playing anymore, but you're still working out. Do you still use the same mentality that you had in college nowadays in your life?
It's actually it's a really good question, I think, because like when you ask me now, I kind of had to think about it because it shifted sort of from the German thing where you were supposed to be always an hour there before practices or in general, you're supposed to be early and prepared. And then going to the States where I think the norm is, like you talked about, the average person maybe is a bit more laid back when it comes
Mhm.
to being on time and everything. So I think that for sure had a big impact being in the States for 4 years. where the punctuality definitely took a big hit. Even though the German in me still wanted to be on time, but if everything around you is not built for that, it's really hard to, like, you're just gonna wait 15 minutes outside of your apartment for your friend to pick you up or anything. Like, it's just not gonna change. And now going back to the Japanese way, where everything is about respecting the other person time, and it's like a lot about consideration of the other person's perspective and life. I think it's a big change again, but I think in general, like, as a core value, I still think I want to be on time. I want to respect other people's time. I want to be competitive, or like take things serious, and build something. And I think America sort of helped me in a way to see that I don't need to do that at all times and still have some success. But being in Japan now really makes me reconsider the many things of the American way when it comes to consideration and integrity. I think that's a big thing. Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so let's go back to the US, and actually let's go back to Germany first. I want you to tell me what made you decide to go to the US and go to school there, and then I'm not really sure if you end up graduating or not, but if you graduated, and what made you decide to go to Japan? I don't know if there was a gap there or not, but just walk me through that.
I mean, there went a lot of factors into that decision, because it's quite of a big decision to go to another continent after going to America. So it's basically you go from Europe to America to Asia. And so the simple answer is that I really wanted to not get tracked back into like the basic routine of studying, graduating, going back to Germany and just finding like a job, because I knew that's not the life I kind of wanted. So I always knew that I didn't want to go back to Germany. I didn't know where I will go after graduating. So what ended up happening, I was looking into actually maybe going to South America or other countries where I can have another cultural experience. So I was really open to all sorts of possibilities. And then I ended up meeting my ex-girlfriend in San Francisco, and she was from Japan. So after meeting her, I was like, okay, like maybe that's a plausible, logical step to do. So that just ended up working out really well, because I just moved to Japan basically with her, and yeah, can't really look back at the decision and say that I regret it, because Japan's fantastic. So if anybody's ever wanted to go to Japan, I mean, lately Japan is super mainstream, so I feel like everybody heard of going to
Hmm.
Japan as like a good idea. But yeah, it's a really good idea. I feel like it's really nice.
Yeah. Um, so in the athletic school, one of the things that I touch on a lot is going from college, either high school to college, and then college to just adult life, where you have a structure. You gotta go to practice, you gotta go to class, and those things. And once we graduate, we don't have those things. Like, some people find a job that it's eight to five, and then sure, they kind of find a structure there, but you kind of it's very different. It's very different at the end of the day. Um, how was that transition for you when you went to graduating in college to go into Japan? I don't know what your day looks like in Japan, but I'm assuming it's not the same as going to college in the US.
I think it's a really great point you're like putting out there in the athletic school, like the transition to go from like a super structured life, and like you don't really have to think about your day-to-day life, because it's structured already, it's planned out, the fundamental things. And it was a big transition for me, because now I didn't play soccer anymore at all. I didn't have any thing to look for, or I didn't have like any external kind of authority that kind of watched over you. So I had to find systems for myself to be like, okay, like what do I train for? I mean, you have it too, like with your like Ironmans, or like your practices, your sporting events. So you kind of have to look inside, be like, okay, what challenges you? What do you want to work towards? What keeps you going? Because I think it's a really big thing to just not stop after college.
Mhm.
So big transition was annoying, super cool at first, because you have a lot of freedom and you be like, oh, finally you have some time for something else other than soccer and just studying. But that eventually turns into like a void of just, what do I even do? Like what do
Mhm.
I do those things for? And I think that's a big thing of like the purpose of what you're doing. And if you don't have a bigger goal in mind, then I think it just becomes boring, and you're always looking for things and never finding any true fulfillment. Yeah.
So on your, I'm going to your profile on Instagram. It says professionally figuring out. Um, what are you trying to figure out? Are you close to figuring out it all? Like you mentioned about having, a bigger goal, a big, like, I don't know, like an objective that you're looking forward to. Um, have you found that thing yet?
That's a great question. I think
It's okay if you
life
don't
in
have
its
the answer.
entirety. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, life in its entirety is sort of figuring things out, and you trying to get there as soon as possible, because the sooner you find out what you want to do with your life, I think the sooner you get the sort of fulfillment and peace of mind. So I think for me the last year was sort of a lot of ups and downs when it comes to answering that questions. Like you have those bits and pieces where you'd be like, oh my god, that's amazing, that's so me, and I really want to pursue that. But you quickly figure out that it was just like another challenge. Like I had the time where I trained for like the marathon, or I wanted to start playing soccer again, but then there's some problems with the Japanese ways, so I can't play for this team because whatever, like there's some stuff that you can't do, and then you once you ran the marathon, you'd be like, okay, now what? So that wasn't the fulfilling thing that you looked for. But lately, I don't know if if you've been on my profile, I've did those videos where I handed strangers some notes with like some positive messages. And after that, I had this realization of that's sort of a big thing of what I want to do, the impact I could have on people's life, in a positive way of spreading positivity and making them realize that dreaming big and chasing their dreams is something that's worth at all costs. And
Mhm.
I think something around that thought is sort of what I'm trying to build right now. I'm trying to sort of grow my following, maybe build a brand behind it that kind of has the vision of encouraging people to really take on their life in a meaningful way of figuring out their dream, chasing the dream, and not playing it safe, because especially in Japan, there's a lot of focus on safety and realistic things and stable income, which has a lot of benefits, of course, because at the end of the day, people need to feed their families and everything. But I still think that the higher good is that sort of the form of self improvement and self fulfillment. And I want people to understand that and have that in mind when choosing their career path and their life, essentially, because we only have this one chance to make the most out of life. And I want people to understand that that's, yeah, really precious. And I think people don't really know that on a day-to-day life. They wake up and they take it for granted, but it's really a gift to have the chance to do something, to live that life. And I think that's kind of sort of what I'm trying to do right now.
Gotcha. So the Leon that I met at Lords, it's definitely not the Leon that I saw handing out those notes to people. It's just, it's not like you, but it's almost like it was almost like a surprise. It's not like the things that you're telling me now about, like not necessarily the philosophical part, because those things I could tell about you back then, but the intensity that you had, like that ignorance to like go for something in terms of like playing, and just being intense all the time, and being just, I don't know, playing hard. Now it seems like you have a much quieter life in a way, not necessarily quieter, but you're doing things in a much slower pace. And maybe I'm wrong, and you can correct me if I am, but if that's true, if you are living in a life that it's in a much slower pace, that I see you trying new things, and doing different sports, and all those things, and trying to learn Japanese. um when did you realize that old version of yourself, that intense Leon that used to play soccer, um, change it to a new person, where you were trying new things, and being okay of failing yoga and Japanese and all those things? Like, was there a moment in this journey that you're like, you know what, this is like that person that I was when I was playing soccer, it's someone totally different?
I think it's not like a specific point in time or like one event, but it was a really really quickly after I graduated and came to Japan. So I graduated in May, and then in July I was in Japan. So I think within the first couple of weeks I realized that like my identity before was, hi, I'm Leon, I'm German, and I play for the Lord soccer team, or the in San Francisco for my other school. Like, I'm on the soccer team. That's always been me. Hi, I'm Leon, I'm the soccer player. And now
Hmm.
that got taken away, and I was like, okay, so like what now? Like, who is Leon now? And I think that kind of opened my eyes to a much broader spectrum of life. Like, okay, what else is there? What other challenges do you have other than being in the starting lineup, or being able to run this much in a game or whatever? So I think the sort of identity loss after graduating and not being a soccer player anymore kind of helped raising those questions of, okay, who am I beyond the athlete? And then answering those questions with, okay, let's figure that out by challenging yourself with as many things as possible to see what you can do, and what other people maybe want from life. Because as if you have many perspectives, I think it broadens your understanding of life. And the more you understand, the better your decisions get. And the better your decisions get, the I think the more fulfilled your life can get. So yeah, I think it was just sort of compounding then over time to get me to a place where I want to go surfing, MMA, give out notes to strangers, and on and
Hmm. Do you think there's a difference between the discipline that made you that strong player, that intensive player, and the discipline that makes you go try to learn surfing and go try to learn Japanese? Or do you feel like it's the same type of discipline?
Um, I mean, I think the underlying principle of what sort of discipline is, I think, is fundamentally the same. But I think my understanding of discipline changed a little bit. At first, it was more like I really need to push myself so much when it comes to like athletic and physical performance. So discipline was something I need to do the really hard thing, even though it might be like sort of hurtful or like you don't really feel like doing it. Versus now discipline being something that even like the little things like learning Japanese or like sitting down for 5 minutes to study Japanese or to give that note to the stranger, which is a sort of uncomfortable situation. So I think it's like the slightly uncomfortable thing that you have to do every day versus before it was like this big thing where you have to push physically versus now being like discipline is something that occurs in like everyday little decisions and you have to have those systems in mind or in yeah you have to have those systems in place to help you day by day, decision by decision, to become that person that you eventually want to be.
Hmm. Um, for us talking here about, leaving the country and trying to learn all those things, it sounds nice, sounds fun, it sounds like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, let me try to do that. But at the end of the day, it's not that simple. And once you're there, when you are on the second week of trying to learn Japanese and you still probably can't speak that much, or you're trying to surf and you still can't surf, and you just feel like you're stuck at it. Um, what makes you keep going? What would you tell people that are trying to do something new and they're about to give up? Or my question, I guess, is, do you ever think about going up and like, you know what, fuck this, let me just go back to Germany, let me go back somewhere else that where they speak English, and I can, go to the gym and play soccer and just read my books, instead of just trying to do all these new different things that people make me feel stupid? Do you ever think like that?
I think probably the cooler answer or the stronger answer would probably be to say no and be like, no, I always know that I'm gonna succeed or whatever. But I think of course there's like those days where you like, I mean, you know it too, like you go in a different country and then you can't really speak to anybody. Sometimes days go by where you don't even talk to a single person really because you either can't talk to them or you're just in your room or doing your own stuff. So of course there's like also you have your family back home in your country, so you'd be like, like I can always go back, I can always have a place, it's always going to be super easy. But I think what always brings me back to being like, okay, let's figure this thing out and let's find a new way of just sticking to this path that we chose is the understanding that the everything in life that we want that is sort of worth having, I think, has some sort of hardship before you have it. And I think knowing that and being in those hard moments where you doubt yourself or where you have me, for example, problems speaking to like the city hall people because I can't speak Japanese and they can't speak English and I can't figure it out. So like then you just I try to remind myself that that's just the hardship that comes with the decision of going that path. And once you overcome it, it's always worth it. And since and again, you know that too. Every time when you look back at the times when you overcame that hardship, you know that you came out of on top of it, and it's just such a good feeling, whatever challenge it is. So I think if somebody would think about giving up on a hard thing they really want because it seems hard or unbearable, I think I would always just try to remind myself that it's the nature of things, that it is gonna be hard and it's gonna be difficult, but the outcome will always be worth pushing through that hardship, and you'll be a much bigger person afterwards. And I think that knowing that is always good. Like, yeah, you'll feel much better about yourself knowing that you stuck to your word and stuck to your path.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I feel like if people just had a little bit of more self-awareness, knowing and thinking about how they will feel after whatever hard time they're going through right now, that would make a lot of people just go through it no matter what. Because and I think when even when we do that, we take it for granted, because I don't think about the beginning of my transition here in the US, but like when I didn't speak English and I had to find a house and had to pay the rent, and then they were asking for a deposit, and I had no idea like what they meant by that. Like, what do you mean I have to pay two rents up front? Like are you trying to take my money? Um, and not being able to communicate, not being able to tell if they're telling you the truth or not. Like it's complicated, but like you said, if you look back and then you're like, you know what, I went through all those things, I can go through these as well, and everything at the end of the day is going to be fine. um you mentioned a little bit about family, talking to family back home. um you, at least on social media, you have been a little bit more visible with your family. I saw that you went out with your mom the other day when you were back home. Um, is that a choice that you had in order to be closer, or is it something that just happened, or is it something that now you're posting about it but you weren't before, or is it something that now it's happening again? How is that relationship with family?
I think family's always been a big part of everything throughout my journey. And I mean, I think the first time I moved out was when I was like 19-ish, and I think it's sort of a pro and a contra kind of point that I've been away from home, which obviously you're not with your family, you don't see your parents or siblings as often. But I think what it really helped me with is understanding that when I am back home, that I really try to be be smart about the decisions I'm making and be like, okay, if my mom asks me to go to her sports class, do I really want to go there with her? Probably not, but is it just nice to spend time with my mom? Yes, so I'll go there. And if my dad wants to play darts with me, then I'm for sure not a talented darts player, but it's good to just have those couple minutes more with them. And so I think I try to be really conscious about my family time, because I know that maximum I see them twice a year. During college you have the summer and winter break when you can go back to your family. So my relationship with them is amazing, because you don't see them much, but when you see them, you're really trying to focus on that family time. Obviously, you talk to them on the phone from like every now and then, but I think whoever has the chance to spend time with their family should be really really careful and smart about the decisions when it comes to that. And then to really value that is like a big thing. Like family is always helps more than it like it never takes away from your life's quality. So yeah, I
Mhm.
try to really nourish that relationship too with my parents, because they always help you. So if I can, then I'll help them too by spending time with them. And yeah.
For sure. Um, I went to Brazil. I think was actually, it was May. Um, and I was sitting on the table with some of my family and then some of my friends as well that I have been friends with for a long time. And then I was talking to Michaela, my wife, and I had this realization that we were talking about the same topics. Like some of my friends were living the same life that we were living 8 years ago. And that was like, Jesus Christ, like this is crazy. Not saying that there is anything wrong with it. Personally, I wouldn't like to live like that, but it's complicated because some people don't even see that they're not even self-aware enough to realize those things. So I'm not saying that it is wrong or right, but whenever you go home, do you ever feel like that? I guess that's my first question. And when you told people that you're going to Japan, and you're going to Japan for the second time, and you're maybe when you're in Germany, you're thinking about going to the US, um, did anyone tell you that you shouldn't do it, or that you were crazy, or that would be hard, or what did they tell you?
Um, so kind of starting with the second question, because
Mhm.
I remember that more. So in my close circle, like family inner circle, everybody was super supportive. I think actually they kind of sort of pushed me to do it, because they wanted me to study. I didn't want to study after graduation of high school, because I didn't really like school, and I knew that I wanted to do some self-employed business stuff, and I
Mhm.
always said no, I don't want to do studying. But my dad was like, you know what? Just go to the States, still keep playing soccer, study a bit. So everybody was really supportive. The only people who really didn't really wanted me to go was my English class in high school, because I was like top three of the bottom three of the class, and everybody was like, you know that they speak English over there, and your English is really bad. And I was like, yeah, but over summer break, before knowing that I'll go to Japan, like in between graduating high school and going to the States, I watched so many English YouTubers and Netflix shows on English, and tried to improve my English doing that it was never a problem. I mean, my accent at first was really thick German accent when speaking English. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of what we talked about, like it's the hardship that you have at first, and now after 5 years, we both speak perfect English. Obviously, we have still accents to our English, but it's such a big skill to learn such a small problem. Thinking back now, like nobody, if you would have never went to the States, I'm sure you would have regretted it too. So um overall, people were really supportive. They wanted me to go, because I think they understood too that it's experience is so important in life, and they wanted me to go out in the world and experience as much as possible. And if anybody's listening to that, thinking about any sort of decision in that realm, I would always encourage people to take the risk in whatever direction it is. Always take the risk, do the thing that you feel passionate about, and if it fails, then at least we try it. But if you never do it, then you just always have that thought. With all honesty, I don't think we're big about the honesty of things. I think I'm so, it always brings me back to how glad I am, and also how fortunate I am in the situation I am in, because while I'm here, I talk to my German friends or I talk to my friends in the States, and I sort of have some sort of jealousy sometimes in mind, where I'm like, oh wow, they have like good paying jobs, they have a really like, you know, cool life, they make good money, some of them move into their own apartments, and it always seems so cool. But then when I go back and I meet them, or I try to meet them at times, and they be like, no, I can't today because I have this thing, and then I have to do this, and then I'm like, wow, like then we talk too, and they be like, wow, you're living such a great life, you can do whatever you want to do the whole day, like you just go work out and do your stuff. And I think, to answer the question, what it reminds me, or what it makes me feel like, I think it it first of all makes me feel like, or it reminds me that comparison is the thief of joy, and that we should never compare ourselves to other people, but also to just make sure that you know that you know what you want in life, and then to follow that path, and not to follow somebody else's path that might look cool, or might appeal good, to be good for them but not for you. And I think whenever I go back home and I see the people that have to like do their 9 to 5 and whatever, I think it's amazing for them because that's what they choose to do. And I think it's great too. They have a purpose, you know. They fulfill some sort of tasks for whatever they work for. But I just realized that that's not what I want to do, and I think I'm happy whenever I go back to Japan, or when I went back to the States. I was like, yeah, that's good that I did whatever I decided to
Mhm.
do.
Yeah. Um, if if the Leon from maybe 10 years ago watched this podcast, listen to this podcast, what would that Leon think?
I mean, I think, especially trying to remind myself of the time back then, I think I was like, okay, like after college, 1 or 2 years, he will have everything figured out, and
Mhm.
everything will be laid out, because that was always the vision, kind of, to be like, okay, we graduate and then we go on from there, and we do our stuff. But probably looking at this podcast right now, the Leon would be like, probably first of all, wow, why did we stop playing soccer? How did that happen? There was like, everything about us was about soccer, or football. And secondly, I think the he would be surprised that we value the impact we have on other people, because I think back then everything was sort of self self-centered, like improvement of your own performance, improvement on your grades, improvement on everything about what you can be as a person, versus now being a person that can have an impact on how great other people can become. I think that's a big growing moment, I think, for what used to be back then. And yeah, probably a little bit of ease. I think I was really eager to be like, okay, I need to find purpose now. I need to find ways to make money. I need to find ways to figure this out. And now I think I'm much more relaxed, because I know if I just do the right things day to day, it will eventually bring me to the point where I want to be in life, and to become the person I want to become. So I'm less stressed about the decisions I'm making, because I now have systems in place now that help me to get where I want to be. And I think that sort of self-confidence, I had the self-confidence in your own decisions, in your own life. I think that that's a big thing for sure, that changed from 3 or 5 years ago. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. I love that because I think a lot of the times we get stuck focusing on the destination and we forget about the journey, and we spend more time in the journey than on the destination. And if we don't focus on the destination, on the journey, it doesn't matter, because when we get there, we didn't enjoy the process, we didn't enjoy the journey. Therefore, it's none of that matters. And I think if we could just focus on the journey just a tiny bit more, enjoy day by day, just focus on being present, and like you said, um, having those systems that allow you to do the things that you want to do here and there. It doesn't matter where you're going, because you're going to a good place. At the end of the day, I think that's the answer. um Easier said than done, for sure. But I think, if people that are listening, I think we left our countries thinking that we were gonna do X, Y, and Z, and now we are probably doing ABC. And it's just, but we're just as happy as we thought we would be. And I think we are both okay with whatever we have going on in our lives. So,
I
um,
think if
go
I can
ahead.
add to that just a tiny bit, I think also obviously Instagram and everything is like super super big, and I think it has a big impact on people's mindset nowadays. I think it oftentimes talks about like the self improvement and optimization of systems and being and do this better and do that better. And I think it's super valuable if you want to become the best version of yourself. Is always something to kind of try to achieve, because I think, yeah, there's nothing wrong with becoming better, but I think it becomes inherently wrong if you do it for the wrong reasons. And I think to figure out the reason why you want to be a certain thing, or who you want to be first, and then knowing what you want to optimize or why you want to optimize things without cutting out the fun part, the journey part you were talking about. I think that's so much more important, and it comes so much easier too if you know where you want to go and if you know who you want to be. It becomes so much easier to improve towards that direction rather than just following a super strict routine that's cutting out everything for
Mhm.
no particular reason. And I think I really want to stress that a lot, that just optimizing for the sole purpose of optimizing is not the way to go about things, but figuring out what kind of impact you want to have and what a kind of life you want to live, and then deciding what to do or what's needed to become that person. I think that's much more valuable than following somebody else's super strict routine that made them 6 million or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I really liked what you said about, like, how before you were focusing on improving yourself for yourself, but now you're focusing on helping other people. And I think that's also part of self improvement, because in order to help other people, we have to work on ourselves first. And I think there's so much more value when we do things for other people than just for ourselves. And I mean, I don't have all the answers in the world, but I do feel like whenever we come to the end of our lives, maybe if there is a God, I think God might ask us, like, okay, so what did you do? Like, did you make the world a better place? And then all you have to say, no, but I made $1 million last year. So what? Like, that doesn't take us anywhere. Those things doesn't go with us when we pass away. And I don't think it's necessarily about necessarily the passing away, um, but I just think there's so much value when we do things for other people, and I think that makes us a better person as well. Because if we could see the world more like a circle and less like a square, I think we'll become better people. The society will become a better place to live in, and everyone wins. And there is a win-win situation for everyone. Um, Leon, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
There's so many interesting things about me you could ask about. So no, I think overall, I think it's probably more about what things I didn't say, but I think you covered all bases
No, but please
with your
tell me.
questions. Say
What
again.
tell me a question. Tell me a question that I didn't ask that I should have asked.
Um, I don't know how the questions uh would be, but I think some sort of point I would like to um give to your audience, or yeah, like to make people understand is, or maybe, okay, let's try to formulate the question of like how important it is to be brave when it comes to those big decisions in life of moving to a different country or a different continent, or how much value lies in the bravery when it comes to making those decisions. And I think that every time I do something slightly brave, or something slightly risky, afterwards I always feel so much better. And I think that is something that every person should take throughout their day-to-day life, not just in the big life moments when you have to make a decision, but when you go through your day-to-day life and you want to compliment somebody, or you want to do a physical challenge, and you be like, oh, should I try this or should I not, or whatever it is. I really want people to understand that taking the risk, and trying to choose what's what's challenging for oneself is always so worthy of trying and pursuing, that whenever you can make a decision that has some sort of effect on your trajectory of life, I would always encourage people to take the riskier route, or the route people say that they shouldn't be doing it, even though you feel really passionate about doing it. So try to be really conscious about what you want, and maybe if your brain just tries to lure you into the safer option, because that's what your brain's supposed to do. It's supposed to keep you
Mhm.
safe. So try to be really um reflective about that in your day-to-day life, and try to take as many risky options or decisions as possible throughout your day or life.
Mhm. What was the last brave thing you did?
Great question and funny answer. I think last week I went to salsa dancing class. I don't know if you saw that video, but I cannot tell you enough about how this basically proves my point so much. I really, I knew that I want to go on Sundays, and I was like, well, I really don't know if I want to go. And I was really like, like, you don't have to start another thing. You already do
Mhm.
MMA, surfing, swimming, all of that stuff. Like, just take it easy. Don't go there. Don't. And then I was like, nah, you can't back down. That's really who you want to be. You want to try out new things. And so much good things came from that class. I talked to a soccer coach who introduced me to like a new team that I can practice with. I met amazing people. Like I felt super good about myself too because I stuck to the decision. And so yeah, I mean it's nothing crazy, nothing life changing, but truly I think the whatever I just talked about taking the riskier route, just doing that will open many doors and will make you feel confident too in your life, because you know that you put things out in the universe and the universe give things back to you. So yeah, and it
Yeah,
was
I agree.
great. I'm a good salsa dancer now, so
I
uh
doubt that.
yeah,
I doubt that.
yeah.
um, but I I agree with you on trying to take the most challenging path. I think there's a lot of value into that, but I think there's even more value when you overcome all the excuses that your brain created, because I think that's where people get stuck, because like you said, you didn't have to go. You already are doing five different things, and it's cold outside, and it's only gonna be girls, and I'm gonna be embarrassed, and all those different excuses. But once you are able to overcome that, trust me, there's nothing that can stop you. So yes, take the most challenging path and overcome those excuses, win the mental battle, and you're not only gonna be okay, but you're definitely gonna feel successful and fulfilled at the end of the day. And I think that's all that matters.
Yeah, 100%. Big time. Yeah.
Leon, I know it's late for you. Thank you so much for joining me and finding the time. Um, I'll let you go to bed, and I really appreciate all your insights and you sharing a little bit of your story. I know there's probably a lot of things that we didn't talk about, but maybe in a year, 6 months, whatever it is, we can do another one and see if we learned different things.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me, and it's super great. Thank you for all the questions. It's a nice like little self-reflection too, to kind of see how far you've come and what you learned. And I think to speak about that was really valuable for me too, and I hope for the people listening too. And thank you so much for having me. And yeah, can't wait to see where the athletic school goes too, by the way. Like actually, like like every now and then I text you and I see what you're doing, and I really want you to keep doing that because I think it's great that you do that. So good luck with that. And I mean, maybe whatever I'm building, maybe we can figure something out in the future, and maybe I can have you on some of my projects. I'd love to do that. So thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me, and